Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Welcome, everyone, to our weekly community Zoom meeting number 25. So Learning Life Skills Together is out in Harrisburg at the NAMI Keystone, Pennsylvania conference. So NAMI is the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and it's the nation's largest grassroots mental health organization. So we're here with a lot of folks who are interested in youth mental health, as you can imagine. And we've just sort of gathered up a few folks who resonated with our program and really are bringing something to you. So we're going to talk to 3 individuals, and I'll have them introduce themselves. So I have with me today someone from an organization that I think is going to be really interesting to our community of parents and carers. So I'm going to allow her to reveal to you what this is all about.
Okay. Hi, my name is Patricia Osborne Randolph. I'm a outpatient mental health therapist. My background is marriage and family therapy. And I created a nonprofit organization called Burn Bright Not Out, the BBNO community. And we're trying to help individuals reduce the development of burnout. We want to do it with a physical outreach. We want to engage. We want to connect. We want to inspire. So, yeah, that's what we're doing with BBNO.
Could you talk a little bit about what this might mean for a parent who is kind of at the edge of burnout, working with their kids and
well, as far as the personal side, because there's personal and professional when it comes to burnout symptoms. Personally, a lot of times parents tend to get overwhelmed with life situations, having to make sure that the children are cared for and they're doing their jobs, their businesses, sometimes taking care of their own parents as well. So it can become, the task and responsibilities can become overwhelming. So what we would like to do is to be able to be there as an outreach for the parents or parent, because there's a lot of them as single family homes now, just to be an outreach to kind of give them an outlet to say, okay, you can breathe, you can attend this event, or you can speak to someone, or you can share, you're not alone. Because a lot of times burnout symptoms kind of give that individual the feeling of, I'm alone in this, I feel isolated, I feel like something's wrong with me.
Oh. And so this is a place where people could reach out to not feel so alone. I mean, being a single parent, as you were calling out there, is can really be difficult sometimes. And, the things that we're doing in learning life skills together are teaching people or helping them to brush up on their own skills of regulating their emotions. And sometimes we need help in regulating our emotions. We might be really good at doing some of the techniques. We might be really good at deep breathing or grounding ourselves in our feet or whatever, but sometimes it's more than that we need. And one of the things that we need is somebody to talk to. And so I'm hearing that's a possibility through your organization.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That's what we want. We want to kind of build a community around the individual. We want them to be able to, like you said, understand that yes, these techniques are out there, these skills that you have to develop, but you don't have to develop them alone. Because a lot of times people feel like I'm failing at it or I don't know how to do it. So we want to be that hub for an individual to reach out and maybe get that confidence or that reassurance that, it's okay. Time, people experience it. You're not alone. It's going to be all right. You can work through it. And we're here for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there's that dimension for parents, and I'm hearing that there's other levels as well. So it's professional burnout that you're also talking about in this community. So those of our listeners who are in the helping professions, this is a place to turn for them as well when they need that extra level of support that doesn't come from just your own capacity. Because one of the things that is just so true is having another perspective can be really helpful, particularly when working with kids. To have somebody else say, "Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I know what's going on, and maybe even why don't you try this, kind of thing." Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of professions, like you said, in the healthcare field, even in the human services field, even in the food service field, a lot of professions are experiencing burnout because of the overload of responsibilities.
Sure, parents are connecting to that as
Yeah.
they hear us say this. Yeah. So some of the things that I'm thinking about are, okay, so how do we reach out to BBNO?
Well, let's see. Right now, we have the website at burnbrightnotout.com. And on the website, we have the email address. So we're engaging in getting a contact phone number, and we have a Facebook page. We have an IG page. Uh, there's also a LinkedIn page. So there's many, many pages.
Right. And so your social media
Yeah. Yeah.
it can get you to
Oh yeah,
the BBNO community.
definitely.
Right. And so you have folks working for you doing this work, and you're really hoping that what's going to happen is people are going to be connecting to each other, I'm thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's building this network of in our case, parents and carers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people might meet up.
Oh, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
That's what we're hoping. We're hoping that we build a community of individuals that are there to engage and support one another. And it's not about people coming together to do volunteer work or to have extra
Right.
tasks.
Right. So it is really from your home.
Mhm.
You can reach out, you can connect with someone, and
Exactly.
that's a really good feeling to know that there are other people out there who are sharing the same trials that you are with the kids,
Exactly.
right? Yeah, absolutely. So so our skills in the life skills are, the first one is paying attention
Okay.
to how we're feeling as well as to what's going on around us,
Okay.
and then sharing that with our kids, that skill
Hmm.
with our kids.
Mm.
And so the important thing really as you're going through our little training that's
Hmm.
online is to be doing those things for yourself. So
Mm.
so in a way there's kind of uh uh let me run this by you.
Hmm.
I mean, so it's kind of like your community, the BB and
Right.
ON community is, yeah,
Yeah.
is there to kind of facilitate that, to kind of help people do that,
Right.
to use that as a sounding board. The other skill is to regulate our emotions. And I was
Mm.
saying, there are all kinds of techniques, and we teach a number of really simple ones.
Mhm.
And one of the really simple ones is to reach out to somebody else. So,
Mm.
so it's sort of like you are wired into that.
Hmm.
The next skill is, how do we get through the tough times?
Mm. True.
How do we, this is a distressful time with
Hmm.
my child,
Hmm.
you know, how do I get through it as well as help them get through it? And
Exactly.
so there are lots of different ways that you could go about this, but this is another one,
Right.
that you're offering here that's kind of, a little bit like NAMI in that it's grassroots,
Right.
built from the bottom up
Right.
with people who care,
Oh yeah.
people who really want to help,
Right.
right? I mean,
Exactly.
that's
Yeah.
that's the thing. And then the final one is to communicate. I mean,
Mm.
that's we do need to talk
Hmm.
about how we feel. That helps us,
Exactly.
just as we know that it helps the children to
Hmm.
be able to say what's going on with them. Like, I feel like I'm burning out.
Right.
How many people can you say that to? I mean,
True. That's
yeah.
true.
And here's a community where you could do that. Right?
Exactly. That's what we're
Yeah.
hoping to create.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah. So we talked about your how people can get connected through the social media.
Hmm.
And so what would they expect? What would happen if I wrote an email
Hmm.
or a post,
Okay.
on Facebook and said, here's what my kid's doing. Does anybody have any experience with this? Or, I'm really feeling like I'm on the ragged edge here,
Okay.
what would happen? What's the next thing that you're hoping would happen for that person?
Well, what we're hoping to do is to be able to reach out to that individual and connect and get a deeper understanding of where this challenge is coming from or this symptom is developing. And then we can possibly find resources or a support for them to help them move through this challenge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're hoping. And as we go on and build the community and the nonprofit more, we're hoping that if it's a financial situation, we're hoping to be able to offer financial resources.
Wow.
So we want to be able to be that hub, right? Financially, personally, professionally, to reduce burnout. And that is our goal, and our big vision is to be able to be there to offer these things: mediation, legal, counseling, medical. We want to do it all
Mm,
if the individual feels that way, so they know they have somewhere to come so they don't feel
right.
alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for the folks that are listening here, you guys are going to be I'm talking to them. You guys are going to be in on the ground floor here and
Mhm.
helping to build it. So this is not just targeted for people who are experiencing
Right.
the growing symptoms of burnout,
Right.
but people who want to help people.
Exactly.
So it's
Exactly.
really like this double call that we're putting out
Exactly.
tonight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, Patricia, I wish you all the luck in the world with
Thank
this,
you.
and I hope that this helps a little bit. And we will post all of your socials and make sure that it gets out there to
Thank
our
you. I
audience.
appreciate it. And I love hearing about the life skills that you were talking about because truly it is so hard for individuals to come out and just say, I need help.
Yeah.
And I tell my clients, say, I need support.
And you know, here's the kicker
Mhm.
is that if the kids see you reaching out, you're
Mm.
modeling a skill that they really need,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Parents don't realize that they're the first role model a child has.
Yeah. Yeah. On that note, thanks so much.
All right. Thank you guys.
So I am here with Joel, who's going to introduce himself in a minute, but I really want to talk a little more about learning life skills together and where it comes from. Because Joel is from NAMI and from the education part of NAMI. And so he really connects up with what we're doing here in learning life skills together, right? So our four life skills really come out of the most effective therapies that are available, particularly for young people, but really for everyone. And the four skills that get taught of paying attention to what's happening around you and the effect on you and knowing what's going on in you is really important. Being able to work with our own emotions really important. So emotion regulation, right? And then tolerating those times of distress when things are not going right and we can't fix it immediately. Really hard stuff, a difficult situation for all of us. We all learn a few things. We can all learn more for sure. And then finally, to be able to communicate effectively, to get what you need, and maybe even to help other people get what they need. That's the advanced course, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I got Joel nodding his head here, and I'm going to ask him.
Non-verbally.
Yeah, he is in now.
Yep.
So I'm going to ask him to introduce himself with his title, and then talk to us a little bit about how he sees these skills.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Joel Richard. I'm with NAMI Keystone, Pennsylvania. That's the state chapter of NAMI here in PA. And my title is I'm the director of signature programs, which is part of our education department. And when we say signature programs at NAMI, we mean our variety of programs from our presentations, our courses, and also our support groups. And NAMI as an organization is a grassroots level organization. So what that means is all of our volunteers, everybody who kind of runs our programs, they're people who have lived experience. So they're not coming to us as clinicians, as people with that background. They're coming to us as people who have lived through it, either as somebody who has a mental health condition, who's had their own experiences in life, or somebody who's supported someone with a mental health condition as a family member. And they come to us and they help us with our programs. So all of our programs are built with that understanding that these are people who don't have that education, that background, don't have that clinical background. So it needs to be those practical skills, that the stress tolerance, that emotion regulation, all of those things that are familiar to us that may have been just always part of our lives, but are skills that we can continue to build, grow, and develop. So a lot of our programs are kind of catered towards, and I've found because I was exposed to a lot of these skills when I'm a peer myself. I'm a person with lived experience. My diagnoses are major depressive and generalized anxiety. And I learned a lot of these when I went through therapy myself. I was exposed to a lot of these methods. And then, I went out into the world and I eventually got involved with NAMI. And as I started to become familiar with the programs that we offer, some of our courses, I started seeing this stuff again. It was coming up in some of our courses because it's evidence-based. It's all, it's founded on that stuff. So I'm like, huh, that's funny. I recognize these things from when I was learning about them in therapy. So a lot of our programs are there as a reinforcement, right? For example, one of our courses, peer-to-peer. It is a course that is meant to be taught by folks who have gone through a training, but they are themselves just people who have lived experience with a mental health condition. And then the people who take the course are just, everybody's on the same playing field. And the material in the course covers pretty straightforward things like goal setting, or how to foster a support group, how to foster your connections with people, so that communication skills, some of those things. So it's all practical. It's not this high level, clinical terms with suffixes and everything. It's all very grounded, very down to earth, easy to apply things. And it's funny because when I actually teach this peer-to-peer course, and it's interesting watching folks, because we teach this goal setting throughout the entire 8-week course. And in the first courses, folks will engage with it and they'll roll their eyes, right? They see goal setting and they're like, I'm an adult, I know how to set goals, right? And we start very simple because we start at the lowest common denominator and build it up. And then I always have to tell folks, I'm like, just be patient, stick with us, because we got to start somewhere. I promise we're going to build to something. We're going to get to some place that's going to start clicking. And the way the program is built, oftentimes people who are engaging with mental health conditions, they have these big nebulous goals. Like, I want to be healthier. I want to be happy, or I want to, I want to publish a book. It's these things that are hard to kind of break down into simple goals. So they seem far off, far away, right? And we call those visions. And when we break it down in the course, we kind of show how you take these big nebulous ideas like, I want to be happy, and break that down from its most nebulous broad down into these bite-sized things like, I'm going to do. So we like, oh, what does it take to make you happy? Explore that. And then, what do you need to do? What are the behaviors that you can do to start building towards that? Is happiness finding financial success? Okay, well, then maybe you want to find a job. Well, can you control if you get a job or not? Yes or no? Well, no, you don't. I can't, unless you're self-employing yourself, you can't hire yourself, but you can apply. So there's a goal, right? You can, I'm going to fill out 3 applications this week. Boom. You've got a goal that you can work on.
Yeah.
So, so a lot of what our programs are involved in, as well as educating and kind of, helping to kind of broaden the understanding of mental health conditions, not just for folks who are experiencing it, but for the public. Because, the best way to eliminate stigma is, the more people know about something, the less esoteric it seems, the more, more comfortable and familiar with it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to pause for a minute on that a description of goal setting that you gave, because it's really so parallel to what we're doing and learning life skills together. We're breaking things down 5 minutes at a time, right, in our online course, and saying, here are things that you can do that are going to help you. You're going to be modeling these for your kids, and these are the skills that are going to help your kids. And so it's like, we all want our kids to be resilient. That's that giant thing, right? We want our kids to be well, and we want them to be resilient.
Right.
And so how do we do that? And so we're saying, why don't you try going for a walk for 10 minutes? Yep. Walk out the door, go out to 10 minutes out and 10 minutes back, and talk about how you're feeling, what's going on. What if you did that?
Right.
Okay. Now I do that once. Okay. That's not a practice yet.
Right.
We're trying to get people to do things as a practice. Mm-hmm. So if I did that on Tuesday, and then I do it again on Thursday, now it's becoming now I'm moving into something, and I'm starting to get a little bit of traction.
Absolutely.
In that way, moving towards that little goal of, we go for walks.
Yes.
That's what my kids and I do. We go
Right.
for walks. Well, that's a huge accomplishment, as I'm sure you
Yeah.
know. You tell people, okay,
Yeah.
you sent out 5 applications this week.
Yep.
That is huge.
Yep.
Right. So it's the same incremental way of working.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's when you come to, if you go to a parent and, you go to a mom or a dad and you go, hey, I want you to teach your kid resiliency. They're going to go, well, how do I even,
Yeah,
right. Where do I even start with that? Right. Because it's this big idea. Right.
Yeah.
And I think everybody would agree, like, that's a great thing to learn, but where do I start? And so you break that down into steps. You go, okay, well, let's take this big nebulous concept, this abstract idea, and break it down into actual measurable, attainable goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes the part of goal setting is recognizing, what is and isn't realistic in that moment. Again, we both we have the family aspect where it's folks who support people with mental health conditions, but also individuals with mental health conditions. Well, like I said, my diagnosis is major depressive disorder. If I'm struggling to get out of bed each day, right, I may not be able to accomplish at that moment going out for a walk, because right now my hurdle is just getting out of bed. So that's your goal, is like, I'm going to try to get out of bed today.
Yeah.
And it seems belittling, right? It's like, well, other people don't struggle with that, right? I'm the person struggling with that. But it's like, but that's your goal. If your goal is to get to a place where you can go for a walk every day,
Yeah.
the first step to getting there is to
Yeah.
get out of
Yeah.
bed. So let's let that be your goal today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So each one of those things is a good thing in itself.
it's an accomplishment.
And that's what we're sort of saying
Yes.
is that if I go out for this walk with the kid for 10 minutes out and 10 minutes back, oh my goodness, we have accomplished something. We've done it together, learning life skills together.
Yep.
Right. And we've exposed ourselves to the world, to nature, to all kinds of things.
Yes.
Just moving ourselves through the world, whether we went for a walk or a bike ride or,
Yes.
a wheelchair, whatever it is that we did to get ourselves, out and back.
Yes. Yes.
We have done something for ourselves. We've actually improved ourselves physically.
Yep.
And by being outside, we've improved ourselves mentally. We probably feel better.
Right.
So it's like this little tiny bite has so much in it.
Right. And it's interesting to go back to the example with the course, when we let folks decide the goal for themselves. And starting out, they have these people seem to come with it with the understanding that if I'm setting a goal for myself, it needs to be this big, lofty thing, because otherwise it's not worth putting the time aside to set the goal. Right. But what you're saying is, when you and so it's easy to go, well, I'm not going to set a goal to go for a walk because that's a simple thing. I could just do that whenever I want to, right? It's easy for me to go for a walk, but then we never set the goal and then we never do it, right? Because it seems so simple to us.
Yeah.
So that we always tell ourselves, I really meant to go for a walk with my kids, but I never set that goal. It was always just kind of something that was a nice idea. So by setting that concrete goal and by communicating that to your kid, you're going like, we're going to go for a walk this week.
Yeah.
Now you're also setting up a system of accountability, right? Because you're telling your kid, hey, we're going to go for a walk, and you're checking in with them.
Yeah.
And then the other concept of that is, when you accomplish that, even if it's simple, even if it's easy to do, there's this idea of building mastery. Like you said, you make an accomplishment. When you do that, you feel good. It's that endorphin release of I accomplished something. It might seem simple, it might seem trivial, but when you reach that goal you set for yourself and you overcome that, you feel good. Your kid probably feels good. They're excited to get to do that and overcome that goal too. And now you're celebrating together.
You've modeled it. They've done it.
Yes.
And now we have learning taking place, and you are the education guy.
Yes.
Right. So that's why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah.
Is to sort of bring this home, is that it's simple but it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy to have even a goal of let's go for a walk 3 times a week.
Yeah. There's so many things
Those
competing for our time that if you don't make it happen,
it is hard.
Right.
It is hard.
right?
And we need to, and there's a benefit to it that we see at the end
Yes.
and that the child sees with us.
Yes. And, just to go off on a slight adjustment to that, especially in this day and age where a lot of folks are noticing that kids are having difficulty paying attention to the world around them and things like that, having those tangible goals to help pull them out of a distraction that might be a screen or social media.
We'll have another discussion about that goal, but
that's an accomplishable goal and you're achieving that.
And you're achieving. Yeah, absolutely. So that's wonderful. And we got to stop here.
Sure.
We got more folks coming, I know. And I really appreciate this.
I'm happy to be here.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay. So I have already recorded an intro that says, and I'm going to ask these people that we're talking to tonight to introduce themselves.
Okay.
So you're on when we start.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you can just introduce yourself for us.
Good. You don't have to say hello.
hello.
I like it. Okay.
Hello. Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, my name is Ikea Crex Watson, and I work at NAMI Keystone. I get to serve at our NAMI Keystone office in the Pittsburgh area. What I do there is my role is community engagement specialist and SAFE coordinator. So I have 2 roles and 2 distinct responsibilities, all with serving in a mental health capacity. So for the community engagement specialist side, I serve all demographics, all people in education, advocacy, and support. I do, however, have some specialized areas that I lead in our NAMI Keystone office, which is around youth and adolescents. So between elementary up to college age, I lead our NAMI on campus programs, our ambassador programs, and really helping our youth learn how to advocate for themselves in their community, as well as I lead our work within the faith community for our NAMI FaithNet. So helping pastors and faith leaders, church congregations, create mental health ministries, and really ultimately helping to bridge that gap between medicine and ministry. And I also, under the direction of our equity director, help to co-lead our work within the Black and Brown community in our equity department. And then finally, on the SAFE coordinator side, it's actually a partner position with the county. So it is the county suicide prevention task force. So SAFE stands for Suicide Awareness for Everyone. And I coordinate that task force for the county to really mobilize and integrate those who are interested in ending and preventing suicide for the county into our communities and educating with resources.
Yeah. So you have significant overlap with us, particularly in working with youth, from you're saying elementary up to college.
Yes.
And so really when we think about what we mean by youth mental health, we're really talking up to 25,
100%.
or so.
Yes.
So you're right in there with where our programs are targeted.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking to the parents and trying to get them to model the 4 life skills and to share them, as we say. So it's they're not educators. That's not the job, right, of a parent is not to educate, but it is to model, and it is to keep bringing these things up. And so we talk about it as practice. How can we practice with our kids? So we have these basic skills of paying attention to what's happening in our world and what's happening inside us. And so that's the number one skill on which all the others sort of rest.
100%.
Right? We need to know what's happening inside us, and not every kid can say.
Yeah. Not even
Yeah.
every adult.
No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you might talk a little bit about that and what you see with the kids and that whole piece of can I name what my feelings are?
Absolutely. So I'll give an example of a situation that happened recently regarding that. So one of the things that I notice, and this is even evidence-based, is that children who may have dealt with trauma, which is most of us,
Yeah.
especially who go through a trauma-informed care lens, uh, oftentimes at that age or at any age, we're still learning how to identify our emotions, name them, bring language to them, articulate them
Yeah,
clearly.
exactly.
And so a lot of times as a child, since language hasn't yet been developed, experience yet hasn't been had, information or education hasn't yet, been presented, what may appear as, misbehavior or misconduct is oftentimes a way that a child is seeking to articulate what's happening on the inside.
Yeah.
And so recently, I have a mentoring program, even outside of what I do with NAMI, but this is additional work that I do. We had a young girl. We had someone presenting, and our therapist was presenting on trauma, and one of our mentees was responding what would appear as disengaged or disrespectful. She's yawning, and her body language, she's not facing the presenter. She has her back to the presenter, and she got her head on the table and arms on the table and looking very restless and uninterested. And, one of the adults in the room was like, we might really need to remove her from the room because her behavior is not suitable for this space. And it seems like it could be a distraction to the presenter. And I said, well, I think that this is less misbehavior and more of her misunderstanding what's happening on the inside of her. I think that she may be triggered. So within about 20 or 30 seconds after that conversation, the young girl gets up, she goes get water, she comes and she says, Miss Ikea, can I go to the bathroom? And I said, of course, darling. I said, can you hold it or do you want to go right now? And she said, you know what? I'll go after this presentation.
Wow.
And so that's when, it was kind of confirmed that she's not necessarily not into the presentation, but
Right.
something's being, triggered. So after the presentation, as we were preparing to go to the restroom, I said, I saw you moving around a lot in the presentation. Are you okay? Was there anything about the trauma that had triggered you? And she said, yes. I haven't spoken to my dad in a few months. And she began to share why. And she had just lost her grandmother. And so they were in a lot of transition as a family. But all that to say, it wasn't misbehavior.
Yeah.
It was that she did not know how to articulate what she was feeling. And trauma, the body carries it. The body feels.
Yeah.
And so not being able to be still, being restless is not a child trying to be rude or mean. It's a child trying to communicate. And we as adults have to help them bring that language, because, they didn't choose the trauma and, they don't even know what's trauma. So I say all that to go back to your point with creating safe spaces. And a trauma informed lens is not looking at a child or a person or an adult and saying, what is wrong with you? But instead saying, what happened to you?
What happened?
And that if we have that approach, we will allow young people to share their emotions more and they'll be more open to it when we give them that space and affirm what they're walking through.
Yeah. That's perfect for really what we're trying to do here is to see that kids don't come with those understandings.
Yes.
They don't come with the vocabulary.
Yes.
And so one of the big things that we really push is how can we get language? How can we get, with the little tiny kids, it's like, if all you have is happy, sad, and mad, that's all you're going to be. right? And so when you can expand that out,
That's
it
good.
gets so much easier to work with the kids
Yes.
because they can tell you what's going on.
Yeah.
And so as they get older, the language gets more complicated, as you're saying, and when you layer on, traumatic experience and that kind of thing, how do you talk about that? It's hard for adults,
Right.
right? It's not a natural thing,
It's not enough. That's
and so to, as you say, make the space
Mhm.
and then to put the language around it to give people, a leg up on that, like you did with the young woman, what's going on?
Yeah.
That just, I mean, that's like one of the greatest questions ever,
Mhm.
right? Right?
Yeah. What's going
Yeah,
on?
what's going on?
Yeah.
Because I know something's going on,
Right.
right? So yeah, so that's like a major skill for a parent,
Mm.
just to ask a question like that, or to create a space in which you can talk about things,
Sure.
and so that's kind of what we aim for in learning life skills. Is we try to put people in neutral to positive situations
Mhm.
to talk about neutral positive feelings, so that when we need to talk about the tougher things, we have the skill
Yeah.
already to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, wonderful. Could you talk a little bit about um some of the um things that you've seen with the younger children?
Mhm.
Because you gave us a sort of a teen or tween, I
Mhm.
think, kind of view. How about somebody younger? Do you work that young?
Yeah, most of our work is high school and above, but
Okay.
we do have, so we're doing some work within a middle school.
Mm,
We don't do so
yeah,
much
that's
yet in
yeah.
elementary, but middle is
Middle.
big.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's
It is.
hard age.
It's
Yeah,
just
for parents,
for parents
particularly, and for the kids.
yeah,
And for the
adolescence.
kids. Yeah.
Adolescence is a hard time. Even beginning to study what is literally happening in a child between the ages of
Yeah.
11 and 13, physically, mentally, how the brain is developing.
Yeah.
I mean, so we talk about these things, as adults, but I've allowed it to be part of the presentation that I have for the middle schoolers and the high schoolers. So, for instance, going back to the language part, they or us, when we're at that age, one thing that begins to happen is your sweat glands begin to develop. Right. And so
Mhm.
once your sweat glands begin to develop and you start to sweat on your armpits and start to get odor, right? These are new mental health challenges because you didn't have to think
Yeah.
about deodorant going to school in your elementary
Right,
school
yeah.
years. And then middle school, one day, someone says, "Oh, you smell bad." Now, how do you deal with that? You didn't even know you need deodorant, right? These are things kids don't come pre-equipped with all the tools to know.
Right.
You have
Yeah.
to wash up
As
this way.
simple as that.
As simple as that weighs in on a child's mental health. And then with the sweat glands developing, now they have acne, right? And these are things that really can affect their self-perception, their self-confidence, how they move and show up in the world, especially if people are making fun of one another. So my going back to how does this work in like the younger generation, or I mean the younger kids. So middle school, I like to tell them, you all are going through the same thing. This is what it looks like, right? These are the things happening. Your brain is still developing. You're still learning how to process information. You're learning all the things that you've learned through your younger years. And now you're starting to realize this is what I need to keep. This is what I need to throw away. And so making irrational decisions can be very, normal for a middle school kid because they're just trying to figure out, is this the right thing or the wrong thing?
Yeah.
So there is quite a few challenges. And then with their limbs growing, and then they have growth spurts, and then their clothes get short. And all of a sudden, the pants that used to fit right now, they're high waters. And now someone's making fun that their shoes don't fit. Or so there's so many different nuances that middle school kids have to understand is normal. And it's
Yeah.
okay. You're not alone. And how about this? you all need to support each other. When you see this happening to your friend, understand you all are not sure what's going on because you all are growing up. So be patient with someone who might come to school and might not smell so good or may not have, all the things necessary to get through some sanitary things or some hygiene things. Be patient with each other.
Yeah.
And the more that we create this space of community, and also the village mindset, I think even among kids, let them know that they can support each other and advocate for each other and encourage one another in their journey of growing up. And so that's just a really important part as we do emotional regulation. So I talk about all the things holistically so that youth and parents, because sometimes parents don't.
Well, I think parents don't exactly think about those things.
Yes.
And
So those are all parts of youth mental health. And those things because at the end of the day, the most important things to children are relationships. A relationship rich life is all a child needs. They're not thinking about bills. They don't even know what's cool, actually. They're not realizing that until about 12 to 14 when they're hitting adolescence and they start to shift from a parent focused life to a peer focused life. And those influences begin to shift. But preteens, so you're talking about 12 and earlier, all they want to do is be loved, heard, seen, respected, and belong. It's just people. People is the main part. So when we put that emphasis on really helping them to have that community around them, educators, home, and peers sending the same message. That's all that you really need is that strong space, especially younger ones.
And so one of the things that intrigued me when you introduced yourself was the piece about faith communities and your work in faith communities, because I think that's a sense of people who carers, we're for parents and carers. And I think so often Sunday school teachers, the pastor, all those people have relationships with the kids. And that's really important. So I'm wondering what things look like from your lens, of your NAMI lens in faith communities. And if you could talk a little bit about that for us, maybe to round things out.
For sure.
Because we don't often get beyond the parents. And I really want to make sure that we capture these other carers because they really do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's shown in evidence-based recovery that faith is 70% involved in recovery programs. So some kind of faith is more involved in recovery than not in most people's recovery. So I say that because so often people will trust a faith leader before they trust a therapist or a counselor, or they will seek the opinion or the referral or the agreement of a faith leader before reaching out to a clinical, support member. So faith is just a very intricate part of a lot of people's lives, and most definitely in recovery and mental health. So when it comes to youth and adolescents, they're following what their parents value. And so parents are relying on faith communities. And so are youth. You're right. So there's so many nuances even in that, because of course some faith communities have a hard time looking at science because some think science and scripture cannot coexist, and that's where I like to bridge that gap, is that God is the author of science. He created science to show the management of the earth and show the ways of the earth and the laws of the earth. And while scripture or whatever holy writ is for that faith community to know how God wants the spiritual things, the non-physical things to function and to flow. So when you are able to marry those two and know that God is author of them both, and that God gave us all of it so that we can navigate life well, then a lot of people are more open to the conversations of mental health and faith.
And so it's another avenue to the parents and to the kids
For sure.
because what they see in their faith community, what gets modeled there,
Yeah, they follow.
they follow.
Yeah.
And so
Sure.
these skills do fit there.
Yes. 100%. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this,
My
for talking
pleasure.
with us. It's been wonderful.
Thank you.
I'd like to talk more, and
Yeah.
we do have to end though.
Yes.
But we can do more about something else. All
For
right.
sure. Thank you
Thanks
for
so
having
much,
me,
Ike.
Donald.
Wonderful.